way off. All right, bring him in. Here comes Jim Walsh, who is apparently not only the state rep and chair of the Washington State Republican Party, but also the producer of the John Curley Show. I got the list, Walsh. You want to take up the whole show? Huh?
No, I'm just testing to see how on your toes you are with what's in the news.
Oh, I got it. All right, let's go all the way down the list. Let's see if we can hit all 5 of these. All right, so Washington election chief refuses to comply with the Department of Justice request for voter rolls. The federal government has said, hey, we want you. I think 23 states have already said, or 4 states or 5 states have already said, yeah, okay, here are the voter rolls. Texas says we can't give them to you yet because we got some technical problems. Kansas is saying no way, and they're willing to go to court on this one. And the state of Washington, with Mr. Hobbs, says that, nope, we're not going to give this. And the reason he doesn't want to, he says they're asking for name, birth date, residential address, driver's license number, and the last 4 digits Social Security number. He says that, the federal government's not allowed to ask for this sort of stuff, and we're not going to give it to him, Walsh.
Yeah, he's wrong, and he's there's a lot going on here. The person who wrote the letter, the demand letter or the request letter to Hobbs and these other state election officials is Harmeet Dillon. She's one of the number 2 lieutenants at the U.S. Department of Justice under Pam Bondi. Harmeet Dillon is tough. I mean, she is a proven litigator. I mean, she's tough. Mm-hmm. And Hobbs and his brain trust is no match for her. She cited 2 federal laws in the demand letter, the Help Americans Vote Act, HAVA, more recent one, and then the slightly older National Voter Registration Act. These are both federal laws. They both give the U.S. Department of Justice the ability, the oversight of how states manage their voter databases, and the Department of Justice has the right to request or demand a copy of a state's voter information to review it, make sure that you don't have illegal aliens or dead people or people who've moved to Texas in your Washington database. The state Secretary of State here, Hobbs, is in an absolutely untenable legal position to say no to this. Initially, he said he might do it. He didn't know, and now he's being a tough guy and saying he's not going to send it. He'll lose if it goes to court, which it means all the taxpayers, all of us, will end up having to foot the bill. I think that Hobbs is being set up by Ferguson and Brown here, you be the tough guy, you be the strong guy, and then he loses in court and, they can throw him under the bus. I don't think the left-wing people have ever liked Hobbs very much. He used to be a state senator, and he's kind of a moderate Democrat. And Inslee gave him the appointment to take over as Secretary of State when Kim Wyman left, mostly to get him out of the state Senate because he was too moderate. And he took the job, and he's been elected since then independently. But I think Ferguson and Brown, who are both to the left of Hobbs, would be happy to see Hobbs take the fall for this dumb fight with the Department of Justice.
So a little kind of background soap opera on this. The rumors were that Kim Wyman they picked her up and they moved her out of there because they wanted her out. They offer her some job in Washington, D.C. Of course, she jumps at it. She was the only Republican really working there in Olympia that was directly involved in the elections. So they offer her this thing. They pull her out of there, knowing, okay, we had a one spot. Hobbs was often not voting with the party line, especially when it came to all the climate change crap. So they thought, let's get Hobbs, let's pull him out. We'll move him over because we got Kim out of there. We'll stick him over there where he can't do as much damage. We'll stick him in this position and let him work there. And then we'll hire somebody. We'll get somebody else elected in there. And then we don't have to worry about Hobbs, messing up the deals. So that was sort of the behind the scenes. Whether it was ever true, no one's ever made it back it up, but it always sort of made for interesting sort of parlor games. voters. So in this case, there are strict rules that the federal government can't get in there and start telling you exactly how to run the election, but they can. Often in the 14th to 15th Amendment, they've done this with the Voter Rights Act of 1965. They can come in and say, show us the data, right? So the data is coming forward. The DOJ wants to make sure that there aren't illegal aliens voting in the state of Washington?
Mostly that, but also just generally make sure that dead people aren't on the rolls, and make sure people who are in another state aren't on the rolls. And Hobbs's weak argument that I don't want to share this information with the feds is doubly weak because he's already sharing it with a NGO, with a nonprofit outfit called ERIC, which is the interstate, supposed to keep track of the timeliness of people moving from state to state. So they're already sharing the information. So this argument they can't share it with the Department of Justice is kind of goofy. They say it's to protect people's privacy, but the information is already not private. It's already a public information. So that's a weak argument. And the federal government, the DOJ, has to follow the same privacy protections the state does. He's in a weak position. He'll lose if they take it to court. So my advice to Mr. Hobbs would be, don't be dumb, make a deal, find a way to get the information to the DOJ. The other thing is there's some scuttlebutt, John, that whistleblowers may already have given the information to the Department of Justice, and that the request is just to test what Hobbs's office would hand over. So if that's true, Secretary Hobbs, you may be getting set up here. Cooperate. It'll be better for you and for everybody in the long run. Let them check the database and see if there are illegal aliens on it, see if there are dead people on it, and clean it up.
Let's see. I'm going to grab yours, number 4 here. Reykdal quadruples down, according to you, on K-12 transgender issue motivating conservatives to act. So 23 states, as of 2023, now have laws on the books that don't let men compete against women in sports because they would be in violation of Title IX, which set up to make sure that women's sports are funded.
To protect women's sports, exactly.
Right, so that the funding doesn't get drained away and that women can compete against other women. 23 states say, yes, the laws are in place. State of Washington, whenever you asked Chris Reykdal about it, he goes, well, we're just obeying the laws here in the state of Washington that allow men to compete against women.
Yeah, when you look up the term useful idiot in the dictionary, there's Chris Reykdal staring right back at you. This guy is motivating and activating more conservatives in Washington state than anyone else. We're worried about, conservative moderate people moving away because of the bad taxes and everything and the bad schools. Reykdal is helping. He's converting Issaquah soccer moms into right-wing Charlie Kirk fans faster than anybody else in Washington politics. His position defending boys playing in girls' sports is illegal, unconstitutional, and unethical. And it's an issue that cuts 99-1 against him. And there he is playing the fool and trying to maintain this unmaintainable position. It's just stunning, John.
But Representative Jim Walsh, but the law says when in the state of Washington, they said that and also the federal government said they extended with Biden spoke. So Title IX protected sex and gender identity. And in the state of Washington, it also has sex and gender identity in there, which then scoops up boys to compete against girls. So wouldn't you guys in Olympia need to be able to write a law or pass a new one that would simply say, hey, boys and girls cannot compete against one another? There's an initiative
out there right now gathering signatures that does that clarifies the law. Now, the thing, Uncle Joe Biden stumbling through the law there back in D.C., he screwed up Title IX. That's been since straightened out by the new administration. In Washington, this supposed law that Reykdal keeps referring to is there is a piece of statutory law that refers to these issues, but not about boys and girls sports. It's an anti-discrimination law that's attached to our insurance regulation laws. that says you can't discriminate in insurance against people who identify as the different gender than what they were born. They really are pulling that string off that sweater really hard to make it apply to sports, where federal Title IX, which is part of the Civil Rights Act back in DC, that Title IX you always hear about is kind of the controlling law on the matter of sports. So this argument they make about state law, it's a stretch. I mean, yeah, there's state law that protects transgender people from insurance benefits, from getting discriminated against in insurance benefits. It has nothing to do with sports.
But this could be settled in two ways. The Department of Education not sending funding to the state of Washington, or I'm pretty sure the Supreme Court is going to finally hear a case in October regarding this. So the answer might be made for us in the other Washington, but you're right. So Reykdal still wanting young men to be able to compete against young women, track and field and other events. The last one you have on here, which I didn't look at because I couldn't quite understand it, Jim. Charlie Kirk. So
all right.
The event in Arizona, right? The event is in Olympia yesterday. People calling, texting, stopping me at the Safeway, asking, what can we do? They want to act, and they don't know what action to take. You are among the great work that you do. You're also a historian, and I always respect your takes on this. So if we go back to the assassination of the Arch Ferdinand there, starting World War I, and I look to see how many times if someone is assassinated, how often it turns out to be good, and how often the actions of the assassin are ever met at the finish line, where whatever that assassin hoped to accomplish actually didn't occur to their liking. So they take a life, and things actually work out to the opposite.
Worse for the shooter.
Worse for the shooter, right? So you could look at any one of the historical examples. What happens next, do you think, after the assassination of Charlie Kirk?
I think there is an awakening. I think there is a revival. And a lot of Kirk's most devoted followers hope it will be a religious revival, and it may be. But I work a little more in the political world, and I'm seeing it. And I think it's going to be a political and a public policy, a public service revival. I'm not joking, John. When last time I was in the Safeway at Aberdeen, not just one person stopped me. Like it was three people stopped me to ask about Charlie Kirk, to ask about what they could do. And I mean, I'm not that recognizable, but this is driving people into thinking they have to take action. And the answers are easy. Are you registered to vote? Do you vote? Yeah, well, I don't vote because, it seems like it's crooked to me. And, every time we put $30 car tabs in, they reverse it. And I don't really vote that much anymore. Well, so my answer is, don't do that. You got to vote. And they're like, oh, yeah, I know you're right. I will. But I want to do more. I want to do something. So I tell them, well, run for school board. Figure it out. Go run for public office. Run for a dike district, a sewer district. Get involved. Run for one of the volunteer positions somewhere. Run for precinct committee officer. That's your neighborhood person. And they shake. Okay, I know I've always done. I don't want to get involved, but now I want to get involved. I feel like I need to do something. If the least they do, John, is vote when they haven't been voting, those what we call them low propensity voters. If the low propensity voters will vote, will send their ballot in, I think that this is going to change. It's going to change politics. But you and I have talked about Kirk before. Kirk is bigger than politics. But I think his assassination will activate people. And you're right. If listeners don't know about Archduke Ferdinand of Bosnia, look it up. It was the thing. He got shot. He was assassinated. It was the thing that, in theory, started World War I. Now, the truth is there was a lot of other stuff going on, too. But that assassination was the reason given for that World War I to start. And it ended badly for the fellow who thought he was going to start a revolution by shooting this poor Archduke who was who was sort of a trust fund guy in European politics. And it worked out the opposite of what the shooter had intended. And I think this poor, confused kid, if it turns out that he was the shooter, which that still has to be tried in court, but if the kid who got arrested and the suspect is the one who did it, and that all gets proved, he's a totally confused left-wing kid who, thought he was striking a blow for like transgender rights, apparently. It's going to have the reversed effect, kid. You're going to end up activating a bunch of people who are politically on the other side of a lot of issues from where you are. And you should have thought it through, kid, before you shot this guy.
Jim Walsh, our state representative there, the chair of the Washington State Republicans Party. By the way, as of last count from the last 72 hours, 64,000 requests have come in to Turning Point of people, young college kids and high school kids that want to get involved. So
a lot of them were down in Arizona yesterday for the funeral, but a couple of them, we did a memorial service up in Olympia, and there was a young gal from PLU, Pacific Lutheran University, who was like the highest ranked person in Turning Point who didn't go to Arizona. And she read a speech on behalf of Turning Point, and it was phenomenal. And she's a kid, she's a student at PLU. And if she's an indicator of the people involved in Turning Point, they're going to change this country, John.
We can't play Bruce Springsteen or it gets taken down on YouTube, so goodbye. Thanks, Walsh.
Good to talk to you, John.